Okay, let's take a look at the replication. For a true disaster recovery solution, we believe that you need to have a local backup. Again, because 99% of those failures, you're going to require a local backup for that fast recovery. But for that slim chance that you lose your local site, including your backups, you want to be able to pull that data from somewhere else and get your business back up and running. So the replication feature in ImageManager Enterprise will help you accomplish that task. Let's take a look at the settings. One thing I want to point out really quick that ImageManager is that the replication part of ImageManager is part of ImageManager Enterprise and does require an additional license for that. There is one catch, however, that the local drive option is included with regular ImageManager. Network drive and remote site do require that additional licensing. So when do you use the local drive? The example I usually give is when you are backing up with ShadowProtect, say you're doing the weekly or the monthly backup job, and you now want to replicate those backups to a removable drive that you want to walk out the front door. The local drive option will allow you to do that. Again, you allow ShadowProtect to back up to, say, D backup Granger. Now you can replicate to that removable media. Let's take a look at the remote site. One thing I want to point out here really quick is that the transfer method to get the data from your site to the remote site is FTP, but there is a replication engine built into this process. So you're not just getting an FTP, hey, take the files from here and shove them over there. You're actually getting that replication engine that's going to determine which files actually need to go across to the remote site. And this can get quite complex, especially with the continuous incrementals. So in setting this up, you're going to come in and put the path to the FTP server and the authentication. This option here, don't replicate base images. We recommend that you put your base image on some kind of removable media and get it over to your remote site and copy it down locally. Simply because you could have a base image that, say, is 20, 30 gigs, 40 gigs, 50 gigs, maybe 200 gigs. That could take a long time to replicate over to your disaster recovery site. And in the meantime, no other backup images are getting there. So you really don't have a true disaster recovery plan until you get your base image there and then start synchronizing the incrementals. But if you don't have a method of getting your base image over there via like a USB drive, then you can leave this checked and it will take time to get across to your remote site. Let's take a look at the replication mode because this is really important. You're going to ask yourself this question: are you replicating to a folder being consolidated by ImageManager? Well, we are backing up to this D backup Granger folder. It is a continuous incremental, so I am using ImageManager to consolidate to create those collapsed dailies, weeklies, and monthlies. In this case, then, I need to answer yes to this question. And I want to choose the option to replicate only the non-collapsed images. This is really important because as ImageManager starts to create those collapsed dailies, weeklies, and monthly files, those files can get quite huge, especially the collapsed monthly file. So we recommend that you replicate only your non-collapsed images to the remote site. Translation: replicate the incrementals that happen every hour on the hour to the remote site. And then install ImageManager at the remote site and allow those incrementals to be collapsed into collapsed dailies, weeklies, and monthlies there. And that's going to save a lot of time and bandwidth for your disaster recovery solution. Now, if you don't have the option of running ImageManager at the remote site, maybe you're backing up to a hosted site and they don't allow you to run programs on their server, so then you can choose replicate only the collapsed dailies. And this way your chain doesn't get out of control. You'll get your base up there, and then your chain's only going to grow a file a day. So you're only going to have about 365, 66 files a year up there, and that is more manageable for offsite disaster recovery if you cannot run ImageManager at the remote site. Now, if you want to replicate, say, a weekly or a monthly schedule, again, you're not going to be consolidating those schedules with ImageManager. They have their own retention policy built into the backup jobs. Then you would want to choose this option. You can choose to replicate the non-collapsed image files, meaning the incrementals that happen every hour on the hour. And then you can tell it to also sync the deletion of files at the remote site, because again, the weekly and monthly schedules have a retention policy built in. So as the older backup sets are getting deleted to save room for the newer backup sets, that will be matched at your remote site as well. And that's basically how you set up a replication target. Let's take a look at Head Start Restore. So Head Start Restore allows you to set up a restore of your backup images while the backups are continuing to happen. This is really, really cool. You don't want to plan for a disaster, but you definitely want to be prepared when one happens. And when a disaster strikes, you don't want to be waiting around as 200 to 300 gigs of data is restoring back to your server. This will allow you to get that big chunk of the wait time out of the way while everything is happy, and then you can apply the last few incrementals and finalize the disk and boot that virtual machine. Let's take a look at how to set this up. I have the option to go to a VMware VMDK file or a Microsoft Hyper-V VHD file. I happen to be running an ESX server, so I'm going to choose VMware VMDK. I can name this, we're going to call this Granger's Head Start Restore. We'll go pick the folder. If this folder happens to be a shared folder or out on a NAS, you can input the authentication for that here as well. Now we need to pick the base image for the Head Start Restore. So I'll click Add a new Head Start Restore volume. And this base image, along with all of its incrementals in that chain, is what's going to be applied to this Head Start Restore job. And I can double click here and name this something more legible like Granger C drive as well, okay? Let's take a look at the options of the Head Start Restore. This feature here is what I think makes Head Start Restore so awesome, is you have the ability to tell the Head Start Restore job to delay applying incrementals. This is important to avoid file system corruption, virus and malware attacks, and just plain old OS corruption. And you're going to know pretty quick when you have something going on. So you can tell the Head Start Restore job, look, I would like you to keep all of the incrementals that are less than 4 hours old out of there. Don't apply them. As these incrementals age, and I know my system is still okay, it will allow it to apply those incrementals as they get more than 4 hours old. If you want to be a little bit more conservative and go by days, you have the option to choose that as well. So again, make sure you set up your lag time or your delay on when these incrementals will be applied to your Head Start Restore job. Let's go ahead and click Save, and it's going to go ahead and start initializing. It's going to create the VMDK, and then it's going to start applying the full and all of the incrementals right now. And as it's going to get the biggest part of the wait time out of the way. This is really cool. Let's take a look at finalizing a Head Start Restore job. So I have a Head Start Restore job running on Potter, and let's say we've had a failure and I want to finalize this disk so we can use it as part of a virtual machine. I will click Finalize the Head Start Restore volume. Now I can come in and choose which incremental to apply to this VMDK. So I can choose, if I know that 11:30 on this particular day, everything was okay, I can pick this and choose Finalize, and it will just warn me that it's going to finalize the disk. We'll say okay. Now it's going to go out and start applying the last few incrementals and finalize the disk so it is now usable.